Alright, so this is our last video for this lesson, and you'll see these are the different types of curves, the more common curves of a polar coordinate. And so you don't need to know all this information. You don't need to know all this information at the bottom, this right here. It's sometimes helpful as far as just being able to identify it just by looking at it, but for the most part all you really need to do is be able to match up the picture with its name. Okay? And so we're going to talk about matching up pictures with the names. Before I move on, you might want to go ahead and screenshot or take a picture of this. One difference I will say is that for circles, we will normally stick with circles that are centered at the origin. Okay. So for example, this circle right here is off to the side. For our purposes, all circles will be centered around the origin. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to draw a polar coordinate. Now I have a graph up there. I don't necessarily need you to graph it on there. You can draw this, you do need to graph it. It doesn't need to be perfect, but what I'm really after is you just figuring out the name. Alright, so I'm not going to graph all these, but I am going to graph a couple just to show how this works. The first and most important thing I need to do is hit mode. Alright, we're in polar, so we'll come down here and go to POL, or polar. And when I do that and hit Y equals, it changes it to R equals. And I see that for my first one it says R equals 3. It also tells me that theta is from 0 to 2 pi, and that's important because I'm going to go to my window and I'm going to say, alright, well, my Y min is 0, and then for Y max I'm going to type in 2 pi, and if I hit up arrow it automatically changes that to the decimal form of 2 pi. And then the rest of that I'm going to think, okay, well, x min and x max, so that's the height. I look and see my graph is going all the way up to 7. So I'm just going to change my x min to -7, +7, and same thing with y min, -7, +7. Alright, going back to Y equals, it says R equals 3.
Good afternoon, everyone. Listen up, we have some
Then I'm going to hit graph.
announcements to say this afternoon. First, if you want to be a lifeguard,
Now, that might not look quite like a circle, but should be if I graph it on here. It should be a circle with a radius of 3.
It starts on Monday, April the 9th.
Now they give you a lot of information here that we do not need. All I really need you to know how to do is say that is a circle. That's it.
All attendants should be prepared to be interviewed by wearing appropriate interview attire. Have a copy of the resume on hand.
Alright, just going to skip ahead to our problem. And look at this one right here. So I'm going to pull up my graph, change the Y equals, and this is going to be 3 cosine of 2 theta. And when I hit X, it makes it a theta. I also want to make sure that I am in radian mode because it's from 0 to 2 pi, so I want to make sure I'm in radian mode. Going to hit graph, and it makes that shape. Well, if I look at my paper and I try to compare that, what shape makes that, then I see that is a rose. Okay, again, don't care about the rest of that. All I really care about is, can you identify that that is a rose?
If you want to do the active pacer test, that's tomorrow. If you haven't signed up, you need to do that in guidance before you leave today.
21's a little different. Notice that it says R squared instead of just R, so be careful with this. Because it's R squared, I need to take the square root. So I'm going to say, all right, well, the square root of 16 cosine of 2 theta. But remember, when I take a square root, I have to do plus or minus. So I also need to do negative square root of 16 cosine of 2 theta. So for this one, because this is r squared, I had to do plus and minus. So a square root plus and minus. Hit graph, and my graph is not cooperating fully. Maybe that's what yours made. Slowly is a gap right there, but you should be able to still see what graph it's creating. It's creating the infinity symbol, which we call a lemniscate. Okay. So again, for each one of those, you're just graphing it and then writing down the name of the graph. Okay, so do a quick graph of it. Again, your graph does not have to be perfect. Just get it close and then write down the name. This is what I'm after right here. Can you find the name? On your test, you're going to be given these as multiple choice questions. You're going to be asked for the name. That's what I'm after for these. All right, well, good luck and have a great spring break.